and others. So in focus tonight is going to be this: major success against terrorism in Kashmir. That's going to be our focus tonight. Major success against terrorism in Kashmir. And joining us in this discussion, we have two eminent guests. We have with us, we saw them on the screen just now once again. Yes, General Atta Hasnain, former Corps Commander in Kashmir, and Alok Bansal, Director of the India Foundation. Thanks very much, gentlemen, for being with us. We'll start with you, General Hasnain. So you obviously know the whole area very well. South Kashmir has been an area where, you know, there has been some sort of a campaign by people after Burhan Wani to try and utilize social media to try and get people involved. You know, much against what popular belief would have, because generally the opinion is that all this is getting you nowhere. This kind of an attitude, if you pick up the gun, you're bound to be killed with it. But still, there was some sort of a movement in that direction, and we can see that, you know, finally here, Riyaz Naikoo himself has been killed. So how would you evaluate, you know, the fact that I've read a whole list of terrorists who've been killed, and it clearly sends out a signal that those who take up the gun will be killed by it.
Thank you. I think you've done some excellent research to give out all those names. I may like to add one or two names, because most of the names that you have brought out are primarily those who have been killed in the last 5 or 7 years, in fact less than 7 years. I can recall going back to people like Shabbir Baduri, who stayed for 10 years in Anantnag and Beach Bihara. I can recall Abdullah Unni in the area of Sopore, a Pakistani terrorist for over 10 years, who was eliminated when I was the Corps Commander, I remember. I remember Engineer Zama from the earlier years in the 90s, and then Arif Khan. I mean, there have been a range of terrorists and great personalities among them, so-called great personalities, but they've all been eliminated at some stage or the other. They eventually meet their destiny. The issue here is, ultimately, it has to be a combination of good intelligence and smart, fast responses. The combination of these two. Your intelligence primarily comes from the police resources or police sources. The Special Operations Group of the Jammu and Kashmir Police is one of the finest intelligence gatherers anywhere in the world. And to respond to that is the Rashtra Rifles, mostly in South Kashmir, who have got all their drills in place. The coordination between the SOG and the Rashtra Rifles has been superb. And in the last 7-8 years, the entry of the CRPF, in combined with them, no one actually gives CRPF the kind of credit that they deserve, because most people do not realize that in most of these high-profile events, there is always the threat of a mob developing there, a flash mob coming up, women and children being placed in front, stone throwing commencing to try and disrupt the operation of the security forces. And it is the CRPF which bears the brunt of this completely. Right. So it's a great ticking machine, these three forces coming together in the quickest possible time and carrying out these operations. Social media, which you have spoken about, is a very, very important aspect. This is the new generation terrorism which has started since 2013 or so. Social media really came into Kashmir in 2011, and within 2 years, its development was absolutely quick. And the exploitation by Burhan Wani, it went in to help in motivation and recruitment. The other aspect of recruitment which comes in here is the aspect of the symbolism connected with the public funerals. Thankfully, we learn now that besides the foreign terrorist funerals, even the local terrorist funerals have now been done away with. Bodies of terrorists such as Riyaz Naikoo will be buried now in some inconsequent place up in Baramulla or Uri or someplace like that. So these are all innovations which are coming about, decisions which could have been taken much earlier, but every decision has its time. I wish to compliment the security forces on a fantastic achievement today.
Absolutely. Alok Bansal, you know, this also comes at a time when the world is going through this period of COVID, and there was a feeling maybe the enemy thought that, you know, the security forces are letting their guard down, but that was not happening at all, isn't it? Nobody is letting any guard down, and this is a clear message to forces that are inimical to India and India's interests that, you know, despite this time, which is a trying time for our country, when we are in a lockdown state, Security forces are being used elsewhere as well in terms of, the COVID challenge. Nothing like this. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Well, as far as Pakistan is concerned, ISI is concerned, which is actually the mastermind behind all these terrorists.
Obviously.
They have been trying to push this sort of activities ever since COVID-19 has struck the world, because they felt that the attention of the security forces would be diverted, there'll be laxity in the security. And we saw what happened just a few days back when 5 security personnel were killed in an encounter where they were trying to save civilians who had been taken hostages by these militants. And in fact, we lost 2 of our gallant officers there, Colonel Ashutosh Sharma and Major Anuj Sood, along with 2 army personnel and 1 officer of the Jammu Kashmir police. So this is showing that. But killing of Riyaz Naikoo is a very, very big achievement, because Riyaz Naikoo, after Burhan Wani, was the poster boy of militancy. He was the operational head of Hizbul Mujahideen. He was a localite, educated chap, articulate person who could articulate, who could speak. And he was what you could call was to a very great extent driving. And it is these people like these who were trying to get new people to join up with militancy. And I think his elimination, his survival for so long was probably an incentive. And his elimination now actually tells the youth of Jammu and Kashmir that this path is fraught with no success. This is actually a dangerous path where your survivability is extremely low. I think this would dissuade people, because at a time when all the facilities are being given to Jammu and Kashmir, opportunities are being opened for the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, his elimination is a very, very important facet, because it not only shows the success of the security forces, because if you look, as I said, in last 5-7 years, every major terrorist has been eliminated. And as I said, Riyaz Naikoo was one of the longest surviving terrorists, and his elimination to that extent goes to disincentivize, demoralize the militants of Hizbul Mujahideen, which is considered to be an indigenous group. Hizbul Mujahideen by tradition is an indigenous group. So Hizbul Mujahideen being demoralized is a very, very important facet.
Right. But General Hasnain, the fact that Riyaz Naikoo is an educated man, he was a mathematician, and well, I suppose that, a lot of people can be brainwashed and got away. But this whole business of people who could have, had a decent life, and taking up something like this, which is absolutely no, as Mr. Alok Bansal said, if you take up the gun, you're going to perish with this. There's no way forward with this kind of an ideology or any way of moving anything. But a lot of educated people were taking it up. What kind of message does the elimination of people like this give to the society in general?
You see, this has been a trend internationally around the world as a part of New Age terrorism. If you see the Islamic State, many of the 40,000 fighters who gravitated to Syria and northern Iraq were actually very well educated people who were all linked up through the internet, attracted to the IS ideology, despite the fact that they otherwise were extremely well off. Many of them were well off. They were well educated. It has been a trend for the last about 7, 8, 10 years. Riyaz Naikoo, I think, fell into the same kind of a category, because somewhere down the line you require some inspiration. And much of this inspiration actually also comes from radicalism. And the introduction of radicalism in the valley has been there for quite some time. We find the manifestation of that in many quarters in Kashmir. In fact, many of the mosques have changed hands as far as the good old Sufis, from the good old Sufiyat to the new age radical Islam. So all this has also had an influence on many of the educated people. And as a result of that, many of them have come into the ranks of the terrorists. This elimination, this neutralization of a high-profile terrorist such as Riyaz Naikoo should hopefully send a very strong message. Your viewers will be very happy to learn that I am getting a feedback on my Twitter feed, for example, on my social media feed, right from Kashmir. A lot of people who are expressing their satisfaction that this leader has come to an end. Because a lot of people were fearing that people existing of this character can only enhance their terror in Kashmir. mostly what has happened is that since the 5th of August last year, people are generally turned quiet. Lots of people are turning towards the government, towards India, not wishing to express it openly. These are the kind of events which will actually inspire them, that the government and the security forces, etc., are gaining the upper hand, have gained the upper hand completely, and that it's a matter of time before terrorism and the Pakistani influence in Kashmir is completely weeded out. It's from that you'll find greater inspiration for the youth of Kashmir. And hopefully this event will be the beginning of that.
Absolutely. Mr. Bansal, let's try and understand, that these people had some sort of an influence only in certain areas. Pulwama was one of them, Kulgam, Anantnag, Shopian. So with this kind of a policy to try, with the zero tolerance policy, the elimination of people involved with taking up the gun, is this message being driven home in these areas? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it is some sort of it's more regional, South Kashmir centric in a sense.
Absolutely. I think bulk of this militancy was in South Kashmir, and in fact, as soon as this operation started, internet services in South Kashmir was cut down. Mobile services were cut down, and this attack took place. What is important is that this message is going to the youth of Kashmir, that if you pick up the gun, you will end up in an unmarked grave somewhere.
Yes.
Now, if this message goes down, this would do a lot to dissuade them. This, coupled with effective governance in Jammu and Kashmir, would actually completely seal the insurgency. As we always know, that South Kashmir has been the far more volatile region. The insurgency has been far more active in South Kashmir as compared to North Kashmir, which has been relatively quiet in recent past. So South Kashmir, I think this sort of a message is going on. We have had too many operations in recent past. Today itself, as you said, 4 terrorists have been eliminated.
Yes.
I think that message is going, that despite coronavirus scare across the globe and in India, the security forces are not letting up their vigil. We are alert and we are ready to eliminate anyone. And I think this message has gone. And this is one of the reasons why I think Pakistan's ISPR also came up and made a statement, no, we are not trying to. So they have also realized that they have a heavy price to pay. And that is what I think they are realizing. And I think they are realizing that no way is Indian security forces going to allow this sort of an incidents of terrorism continue in the valley. And I think that message is going. And as General Hasnan said,
yes,
rightly, what is even more important is that the nationalist elements, who are numerous but were silent because of the fear of the gun, would feel emboldened to come out and support the government, support the nation in a more loud manner, which they have not been able to do because of the fear of the gun.
Right.
As the gun gets eliminated, I think these elements will come out and support government initiatives, government programs, and
right. And the Prime Minister, Dr. Hasnan, General Hasnan, the Prime Minister did mention in the NAM summit, he talked about fake videos, doctored videos, fake news, also about issues about terrorism that are coming in from India's western neighbor. During this period of time when COVID-19, when the world should be united in this fight against COVID-19. And we, the Chief of Defense Staff spoke exclusively to us just 2 days ago, and he said that we always expect these sort of things from Pakistan at all times, so that we are never letting our guard down as far as Pakistan is concerned. So when we look at the situation as things stand, we look at Pakistan, as trying to take advantage of any kind of situation to try and destabilize India. What do you think? I mean, is this a message out to them as well?
One thing is very clear, that from the 5th of August till about March or early April, Kashmir was stable. There was an absence of violence. I will not call it complete normalcy, but there was an absence of violence. Obviously, with the COVID-19 trigger having taken off, and India coming into the throes of that also, Pakistan was sensing an opportunity. As it is, they were wanting to up the ante as far as the coming spring, in the spring season or the coming summer was concerned. and they found that this was the opportunity to do it. It commenced on the 1st of April with that infiltration attempt in which we unfortunately lost 5 of our SF men, but 5 of the terrorists were eliminated. And then we found the events happening 3 days ago in Handwara. But what most people need to do is to piece together the fact that in the month of April, we have had 16 operations and we killed 30 terrorists in the month of April. Obviously, Pakistan was attempting to do something much bigger. And the information game, which the Prime Minister spoke about in the NAM, while speaking to the leaders of the NAM, it was clear that this has been a part of the comprehensive Pakistani effort. Not only on ground and pushing in terrorists, not only upping the ante in the hinterland, but also upping the entire social media campaign to try and bring about greater alienation among the people. They knew very clearly that most options for Pakistan have run out. And now this is the time when they need to retry and attempt to regain the initiative once again. Unfortunately, they have not succeeded in doing it.
Okay, I'll get the final word in from Alok Bansal. You know, this cannot be looked at in isolation, Mr. Bansal. We see it as, you know, another piece in an overall strategy which, you know, we can even date back to the surgical strikes. And we have a comprehensive approach here. And we can see that, you know, as we go further and further, terrorism is being eliminated from Jammu and Kashmir. Would that be the message?
Undoubtedly, terrorism is being eliminated, and what is important is the ISI's strategy of not only nurturing terrorism, but as General Hasnain said, of dividing communities in India. In fact, the vicious social media campaign which ISI is running and circulating in Middle East and many other parts of the world has actually been exposed, an ISI strategy as far as fermenting trouble for India in Kashmir Valley as well as rest of India has actually been exposed. And I think with elimination of Riyaz Naikoo, Indian security forces have achieved a big victory and a big signal has gone to the youth in Kashmir. And this, I think, is a very, very important nail as far as the coffin of insurgency in Kashmir is concerned.
Mr. Alok Bansal and General Atta Hasnain, thank you very much for joining us here on News Night.